Good evening, Professor. Thanks very much for your time. When you heard the news, what was your initial reaction?
Well, it was, here is yet another situation which will compromise the ANC image and even damage its reputation, not because of anything, but because of contradictory signals that it is sending, especially at the time when it is still embroiled on the PPE scandals and also still trying to handle the issue of the VBS Bank and the redeployment of members. Let me just give a context to this. In not one but several conferences of the ANC took a resolution that where members are fingered, they would have to step aside to save the reputation of the ANC. Even if they had not gone through the trials, they have not yet been found guilty. And they have contradicted that so many times that there is now a legitimacy crisis for the ANC on the issue of fighting corruption, even at the level of perception.
Do you think that's... Then the question is why? Why would they do this? Because it's so blatant, it's so in your face. And I'm just wondering if it's about something that a political analyst, speaking to my colleague, Thembekile Mkhototo earlier, and he was saying that Gumede has such strong networks of power in the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. In fact, he described her as a warlord. Could that be why the party has gone against everything they say they stand for to reinstate her, albeit in a different position in the province?
It is to some degree that the ANC is a fragmented, divided organization where factions from time to time do test the balance of forces. And Gumede is quite an influential individual leader, especially in the eThekwini region, which is the largest region, which therefore has a sway in the region of KZN. And she's also closer to the former president, Jacob Zuma, and some of the networks, therefore, will have lobbied quite hard to make sure that she doesn't fade away, even as she's waiting for her trial.
Professor, I just want to play a clip from an interview that my colleague Shahan Ramkissoon did with the Premier, Sihle Zikalala, last week. He had such a strong message on corruption. Let's just have a listen to what he said and then we can chat again.
Corruption is not what we stand for. It's an antithesis of what we stand for as KwaZulu-Natal government. Corruption is against the values and traditions of the ANC, which have mandated us. And those who have done so individually will have to face music.
Corruption is not what we stand for, and yet we have someone who's facing trial for corruption now making a comeback in politics in his province. Is the onus on the Premier to make a statement, or does it go higher than that? Should we expect a statement from someone in the top six, from the NEC? What's the next move from the ANC going to be?
I do think that the NEC will have to pronounce on some of these apparent contradictions, be it the VBS situation and now the redeployment of Zandile Gumede, because these come at a very sensitive time when now people are beginning to use corruption and ANC as a synonym, and ANC is struggling to define and show that it has the political will to stand up to all those who might be fingered, even at the level when technically and legally they are not yet found guilty, because it is precisely the problem in the country that we've used the legal technicalities instead of using the ethical standards to deal with some of these challenges. And that in itself, legal processes tend to be long, legal processes tend to be technical, and the reputational damage continues.
And this is not someone who, you know, there's an allegation. This is someone who is facing a trial. Now, when you go to trial, there is enough evidence that it needs to be answered. It's not just a flimsy accusation. I'm just wondering where this leaves the president, who himself has been constantly saying that it is so important that we do the right thing. Does this highlight the divisions in the party? Does it suggest perhaps that the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal is a law unto itself, or does it show that the party is still very divided?
It would be unfair to single out KZN ANC because you do see ANC in other regions at times behaving the same manner as if it's a federal arrangement within the ruling party itself. But it is quite clear here that if you have a strong constituency within the faction that might be bold enough to stand for you, you'll make it. And the question is beginning to come up to say, can ANC self-correct, or have we gone past that particular threshold? Because those who have vested interest might be strong enough, and also there might be a balance of embarrassments where one says, as the president of the Women's League once said, each one of us has Molanyana skeleton. It could be that that kind of a blackmail politics, which says we are all on the wrong, is also featuring, even though it may not be amplified in the open. So ANC, the question is whether it can self-correct given the scale and the pervasiveness of these challenges.
Professor Solmador eThekwini, thank you so much for your time this evening. Of course, he is from UNISA and he's a policy and political analyst.